I have found the stupidest rule that Games Workshop I think has ever put out. This is ridiculous, absolutely inexcusably stupid. I think they glossed over this when they play tested. It's so bad that I think it should be repealed, condensed, rewritten. All right, for context, I've been frantically putting together my Old World army, and I've used the reference book many different times. I look up what the rules are, I look up what my arcane journal has to offer, because I play WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. And I've had opponents that look at my orc bolter, orc with a heavy bolter, and they say, he's got a heavy bolter, obviously. But I paid the points to make him a rocket launcher. Uh, and they flipped out and rage quit. So, yes, I've played, unfortunately, against unforgivable idiots, and just because the model doesn't have what it looks like it has, or maybe it's indescribable, a kit bashed something or other over a shoulder, the person can't figure it out and doesn't bother to ask, they just rage quit and says, you can't do that, that's not fair, my Space Marines are gods and you can't kill them because I have the I win card. Okay, all right, anyway, I've had bad experiences, so as much as possible I play WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. So I've been going back to the book and I've been looking up the rules and I'm stuck. I've been putting together orcs and goblins and a thematic list with orcs and black orcs, black orcs specifically, but I've always wanted to use savage orcs. Savage orcs used to come with spears, or some of them used to come with spears. So I wanted to put together a savage orc army with spears. Spears is, I don't know what happened. So according to Warhammer the Old World, um, there are two kinds of spears in the world, two kinds of pointy sticks. One is thrusting spears, and the other are throwing spears. So one are thrusting, boink boink, and the other are throwing. Okay. Thrusting spears are described as such: the favored weapon of massed infantry regiments. Although too long to be used effectively in the charge, thrusting spears are ideal defensive weapons. Their length enables wielders to fight in multiple ranks, whilst keeping the enemy at comparative safe distance and robbing them of their impetus, forcing them to battle past jabbing spear tips to close the distance. Note: models use troop type infantry only. A model wielding a thrusting spear cannot make supporting attack during a turn in which it charged. During a turn in which it was charged in its front arc, a model wielding a thrusting spear gains a +1 modifier to its initiative against the charging units. Okay, there's a number of things to unpack there, but I have a lot of issues with thrusting spears, as they're calling them, pointy sticks. But let's pause on that and let's look at throwing spears. Throwing spears, in comparison, they're different somehow. Throwing spears, short, heavy throwing spears, are weapons favored by hunters, be they on foot or mounted. In battle, they can be hurled over the heads of the front rank by those behind, as their wielders charge often to devastating effect, cutting down many foes before sword blades meet. Okay, great. Note: the throwing spear can only be used during a turn in which the wielder charged. In subsequent turns, or if the wielder did not charge, the model must use its hand weapon instead. They mean javelins. Javelins, not throwing spears. Javelins. You can call it something else. It's a different kind of spear, and you already use spear, so use a different word like javelin. If you need to, why not use something like pilum? Ask the Romans. It was their throwing spears. They also, in point of fact, used it to jab. I know, crazy concept. But here's the thing. Okay, let's fine. Let's deal with javelins first. I'm not going to call them throwing spears because that's dumb. They're javelins. All right, let's be honest. Okay, back up a minute. If they were javelins, wouldn't you use ballistic skill instead of weapon skill to fight with them? And why is it only the second rank that gets to use them? And why wouldn't it be everybody? If they were javelins, the entire front rank would be able to stand and shoot. When you charge into combat, why wouldn't you just fight in two ranks? Because javelins are longer, and maybe you could just fight in two ranks with them. Or even better, use thrusting spears to fight in two ranks. Just fight in two ranks because they're long, pointy sticks. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, they're just long, pointy sticks. Yeah, they're good for defense, sure. But you can also walk up on people or even run towards them. And some people get on horseback to do that, and they rename it and call it a, what was that? They call it a lance. It's the same thing, but you're just walking on the ground. You're on foot. Okay, let me paint a picture. Two blocks of troops face off against each other, eager for combat. The orcs face the skeletons. The orcs begin to charge. When they're close enough, they loose their javelins. A hail of javelins rain down upon the skeletons just before the orcs collide with the front ranks of the skeletons. Does that sound like what would actually happen? Or what about this? Two blocks of troops face off against each other. The mighty orcs begin their charge. They lower their spears and run full force like mounted troops with lances. They collide with the skeletons but reach deeper into the ranks of the enemy. Okay, but one side can't reach very far, like an extra rank's worth of distance, but realistically can't fight in a supporting rank because, they're more on the sides of the supporting rank, and he can't actually go into the support. Hang on a second. Let me just show you. All right, this is what I'm talking about. Orcs have just charged the skeletons, and the orcs, I've got 1, 2 in base contact with the skeletons. I've got 1, 2, 3 in supporting ranks. I've got one rank behind, so I've got one behind and another behind. The orcs charged this way, and so they should be able to use their javelins in order to fight in extra ranks. So normally I'd have 1, 2 being able to attack, and then 3, 4, 5. So I'd have 5 attacks, but they have frenzy, so they get 1, 2 extra attacks. Okay? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 attacks. Great. But what if I used javelins? I can fight in an extra rank. That's fantastic. Except I don't get supporting attacks. So I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 if you're being generous. Maybe I've got 8 attacks. Okay, it almost seems worthwhile. Except for this. What if I gave them instead an extra hand weapon? So an extra hand weapon means that extra hand weapon, frenzy, regular hand weapon, each dude has 3 attacks. This is my glass cannon that I want to use, right? So I've got 2-handed weapons orcs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 attacks. So if I'm going to use him my way, I'm going to give him an extra hand weapon instead of a thrusting spear, which is very conditional, or a javelin, which is also very conditional. I give them an extra hand weapon, and they've got lots more attacks, and they get supporting attacks. So let's say, for example, this time the skeletons charge the orcs. Great. I mean, that's dumb, but sure, whatever. The skeletons charge the orcs, and they make it into contact, and let's say the orcs have thrusting spears. Great. That means I get charged. As the orcs, I get charged, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 attacks because you charge me, but I don't get supporting attacks. So I'm getting four attacks in response to whatever you do. Okay, let's call it frenzy. Let's say that there's frenzy. Then you charge me, like I said, dumb, but whatever, go for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe I get 8 attacks, only touching 2 bases. Is that worth it? Or should I get an extra hand weapon? Extra hand weapon, again, you charge me, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm still making out better with an extra hand weapon. And I kind of think no matter how you slice it, I get a better deal for the 1 point per model that I'm spending for an extra hand weapon versus any possible permutation of either thrusting spear, super conditional, or throwing spear, whatever, the javelin. And none of that makes any sense. And it's really super frustrating because I liked the models that had the Savage Orc with the spear, and it made a certain amount of sense. It made a lot of sense to incentivize spears or incentivize some kind of a thrusting weapon like that because they were, in fact, devastating in actual history when people used troop combat. But in this case, the rules make spears of any sort kind of stupid and useless. Please tell me if I'm wrong. Please comment. Tell me I'm wrong. Point out something I haven't seen. Or tell me I'm right. I don't know, man. Am I reading this wrong or what? All right. If you like what I'm doing here, please like and subscribe. Thanks.